Welcome back everyone to another interview session of Suyukti, the Oratory Club of Department of Commerce. Today we have Krishna Singhal with us. She did her BCom with Christ and went on to do her diploma in interior architecture. She is an interior designer who has worked with top designing companies. She also started her own firm called House of Singhal in 2020. She specializes in both residential and commercial interior designing. It's an absolute pleasure for us to have you, ma'am.
Thank you for having me.
So before we proceed with the interview, I would like to ask you how you're doing.
I'm doing good, thank you. How are you doing?
I'm doing good too. So now let's proceed with the interview. So having a background in commerce, you have ventured into the designing field.
Yeah.
So how has your journey been so far?
It's not been easy, of course. It's been a little difficult, but the journey has been good because interior designing is what I wanted to do always. So back in 2012, there was not much scope for interior designers in India. So my parents wanted me to get a degree in commerce first and then do whatever I wanted to do. So I ended up doing just that. I got my degree in commerce and then I did a 1-year diploma in interior designing and then just started working because most of the experience that you get in this particular industry is via working, with good companies. So I started working directly. But yeah, in 2015 is when, the year when I graduated is when interior designing, a lot of good big companies got launched in India. So that gave me a lot of opportunities. So it became easier for me to, start off later than...
That's very true. It feels like designing you need practical experience.
Yes, practical experience is more important.
So when did you exactly know that this is what you wanted to do?
So since my childhood, I've used to, watch a lot of home renovation shows on TV and everything. I used to be interested in that. But I never realized that this is something I could do for a living. When I was in 2nd PU, my sister kind of pointed it out to me. I was preparing for CA at that time. So my sister pointed it out to me. She said, why are you doing something that you don't want to do when, you're really interested in interior designing? Why don't you take that up as a career? So I made up my mind to go forward with that. But my parents wanted me to get, BCom degree first and then. So the plans got changed later. I did BCom first and then started. So yeah, it was quite early that I found out I wanted to do interior designing itself.
That's so nice. Like a lot of people, even after their bachelor's or master's, are confused about what they want to do.
Yeah.
So yeah.
But in my case, I always knew.
Yeah. But ma'am, how did you break the monotony of working at Big Four firms? Because most of us, after completing a BCom or BCom honors, want to go for placements and get top paying jobs. So how did you manage to break the monotony?
I guess you just have to know what you really want. With me, if I would have gone for any of these companies and worked for a year, it would have served no purpose for me in my case. So, and I don't really like the monotonous desk jobs. So even when I did designing, I knew that I would get to do something new every day. That was the reason I chose this. And my dad always used to tell me, I have a fickle mind, I move from things to things very easily and very quickly. So he was like, he always had his doubts on me that I might be able to stick to interior designing or not for a long time. But yeah, since you're dealing with a lot of things, it's not monotonous, right? You're designing different spaces every day, taking up different kinds of projects. So yeah, I've been able to stick to it until now at least.
That's really nice. So like your family has been very supportive.
They have been. Yeah.
So how did they react when you wanted to do designing instead of CA when you were preparing for CA?
Yeah, I realized when I was preparing for CPT exams, I realized that this is not my cup of tea. And, coming from an Indian middle class family, a woman is supposed to get married by 25, 26, right? So with that mindset and I had to deal with that mindset a lot. My parents also thought the same and that's why they gave me the freedom for 3-4 years. You can do whatever you want after BCom. Eventually you'll have to quit. So with that I started and I didn't give my 100%, for the 3-4 years initially. Later on I realized that that's just not how it works these days. Things have changed now. So after I started, things kept changing and I got to continue so far.
That's such an inspiring story. So ma'am, a lot of people want to change careers but are hesitant to change it.
Yeah.
Like even you were fickle-minded when you started. So what advice would you like to give to students who are hesitant to change their career?
So I would say that do your research, beforehand. You have to know what you're getting into. There's a lot, when you're shifting careers, you've already given certain amount of time of yours to a previous course, or if you've been working in the company for the last 3-4 years, you've given some time to it, learning the skills that you learned. Now when you're shifting careers, you're starting from scratch, you're starting from zero. You have to be prepared for that particular thing, that you will have to start as an intern also. Maybe you've reached a good position in your previous job, but now you'll have to start from zero. So gaining knowledge is really important. Do your research, be prepared, know what you really want to do, because it's not like you got bored of your job today and you're like you want to switch. That's not how it works. Before you get into something else, you have to really know if that's the right thing for you to do, if you really like doing what you want to do, because every day you'll end up facing different challenges, right? To get through them, you really have to give that commitment to it, that yeah, I want to do this, I really like doing this. Only then you'll be able to get through the challenges one by one. So do your research and be financially prepared, because you must be earning a good, you might be getting a good paycheck here in the previous job, but in the new one you have to start from zero. So yeah.
So it's basically comes down to doing your research well and knowing and going after what you want to do.
What you really want to do, because you will have to stick to it for a long time. It's not a 1 year, 2 year thing, right?
Yeah.
You have to be in it for at least 10 years to be able to see the results sometimes.
Yeah.
So until then, if you don't love what you do, it's very hard to continue. Every day you're going to come back home with self-doubt, and should I continue or not? I've dealt with this for a long time. I still do sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah, but just because I love designing, I've been able to continue with it.
That's really nice to hear, ma'am. So we all know that you've also founded your own firm, House of Singhal.
Yeah.
So what, according to you, are the most crucial traits of an entrepreneur?
I will take you, point by point for this answer. So I think consistency and being persistent is one of the keys to survive, because I had a lot of people telling me, this is not the thing for you. There's not much scope for it in it. Yeah, I have a lot of people tell me that there's not much scope for a girl in this industry, so don't do this. But I knew I had to do it, so I went after it. So you have to be very persistent in doing, even if people are, stopping you from going for it, you have to continue for it. And one more thing I realized is, the more time you give to something, the better you get at it. Experience matters a lot. So I had one of this client of mine who was into, luxury product. He sells luxury products, hardware industry. So basically they have thousands of products in their showroom, and every month they get new products. And I realized he knew every single product details by heart. He knew which catalog it belongs to, in spite of having like thousands of products. So I asked him, how do you do this? So he told me, I love what I do. Every morning I'm excited to come back to work. That is one thing. Secondly, I've been doing this for the last 20 years. So imagine the kind of experience I have.
Yeah.
So that helps, him handle his work better, push himself every day. So the more time you give to something, the better you get at it. So it's one of the most important things. And secondly, you have to love what you do. To, survive, move forward, you have to really give your 200%. Or whatever you have, give it your all. Just don't stop. Don't go half-heartedly into something. Go completely into it. You have to see the result, and you have to be willing to do anything it takes to get that result. So you have to have that goal in mind, that I want this outcome to be.
So it basically comes down to consistency, experience, and time you give to something.
Yeah. The more time you give to something, and then getting more knowledge, upskilling, all these things they just help you grow, because you have to learn. An industry may be really big, but you have to get as much knowledge as you can. So every day try and learn something new about it. Be excited. You should have that fire to learn every day. So that helps you.
Yeah, the hunger in your belly to be. Yeah. So there's a very famous saying also, stay hungry, stay foolish.
Stay foolish, yeah.
Yeah. So ma'am, so now that we know that you've also started your own firm, I would like to ask you, what does a typical day in your life as an interior designer look like?
So I have my morning routines and everything set up. Apart from that, as soon as I get to work, the first thing I do is make a to-do list, because I'm usually managing 3-4 projects at a time. So it becomes difficult to keep track of, and we have crazy timelines. We have to follow the timelines very strictly. So it becomes difficult to keep a track of what is due when. Okay. So my task is to make a to-do list, and all I do is, tick off those tasks throughout the day that it's done. I have to complete it one by one. That helps me set my priorities.
Okay.
So I have to, know that this project is a priority. I have to give time to this. Next, I can move on to something else, because there are some times, when two things clash and you have to choose one. So it helps me keep track of my priorities, which is more important, and that's how I go about the day. And then yes, coordination. So I'm always on calls, attending calls, coordinating between clients, vendors, everybody.
So to-do list is a go-to for you.
It is a go-to for me.
So ma'am, a lot of entrepreneurs face a lot of difficulties. So what is the biggest difficulty for you and how have you overcome it?
For me, see, when you're starting off from zero. You have to learn everything. So you do end up facing difficulties, because even though you may theoretically be knowing things, when you're stepping into the real world, things get different. So every time with an experience, it becomes difficult to handle at first, but you have to just continue, right? So same thing happened with me. But the biggest challenge I faced was managing my finances. So as a designer, I'm very good at designing and handling my clients that way. But when it comes to asking for money, it was my weakness until some time ago. But I worked on it. I asked a lot of my friends, met other people who have started their own company. So I met them, I tried to learn about their process. What is it that they follow to safeguard themselves against, client not paying.
Yeah.
So I asked them, and whatever different processes they followed, I made my own from that. So I asked my friends what works for them. People gave ideas, you can do this and that. So it's about developing a process, right? Until and unless, when you're starting a business, it takes a year or two for you to build a process.
Yeah.
That's the difficult part. Once you've crossed that path, I think it becomes easier for you to manage things. So for me, it was financial difficulty. For some, it may be something else, some other process that's not working out. So building that process was difficult at the beginning.
So ma'am, as you said, managing finances was one of the hardest part for you. So has it ever been like you have done a project for somebody, but they have not paid you the full amount?
Yeah, it has been. That's why I think this is very common thing in this industry, that because it's a service-based industry. When you're in the product-based industry, you pay, people pay first and then you're delivering the product. But here, they expect you to deliver the service first and then they pay. So there is a very good chance that you may not get the last stage of payment that is due. And it's been happening with a lot of companies. So we all, discussed about this, and we're moving towards the process wherein you get the 100% payment first and then deliver the service.
Okay.
So there have been a lot of people going through this, and now we are moving towards that phase wherein people have to understand that payment has to be done first and then the service will be delivered.
Yeah, ma'am, that's true. Apart from this, I also feel like a lot of startups face difficulties like lack of brand recognition.
Yeah.
And reaching out to new clients.
Yeah.
So how did you deal with it?
So for me, it was slightly different when it comes to this, because I'm from a commerce background.
Yeah.
So nobody in my circle knew a person who was an interior designer. Let's say you're graduating from an interior designing institute, anybody who would have a requirement, they would do it for themselves, right?
Yeah.
But in my case, anybody had a design requirement, they would approach me because they knew I'm the only one in the circle. So even that took some time, because I'd not established myself as a brand earlier. This happened a lot, I would meet somebody and they were like, I just got my house done, and I'm like, I'm an interior designer, and they would say, oh really, we didn't know that. If I knew, I would have given the project to you. So that's when I realized not everybody knows what I do. So 2 years back, I started posting all my projects on social media, Instagram, Facebook, everywhere. And now, it took some time, but now every single person in my contact list know what I do. So anybody has any requirement, they just message me directly, So mostly it's been word of mouth referrals in my case. So my friends got me initial projects, and then it just started off like that. So word of mouth recommendation is what I've been following. And the brand recognition part, since I started posting on social media, I had not expected it to do so well, but it did. Now, I got very good response on social media. So yeah, that's how, these are two ways for me to get my projects, like marketing and all. And branding part, my friends helped me with it. So they did the logo, they got the name, making the websites, everything. They have an advertising agency here in Bangalore. Even they are Christ alumni. So they helped me with it.
So contacts is
Contacts.
the main thing.
Yes.
Okay. So, ma'am, apart from this, I would also like to ask you, what are the other things that you're working on other than the interior designing?
So another thing that I'm interested in is making videos and making educational videos about interior designing, because when I started off, like I said, I've worked in I've worked in 4 different companies, right? Everyone had a different process. So I realized there's a lot of knowledge gap, because every time I join a new company, I have to learn their process, in their way of working. I mean, even in interior designing, product knowledge is been given differently by different companies. That's not how it should work, right? As a client, at least when you're spending on something, you have to know what is it that you're getting in return. So I wanted to bridge that knowledge gap in this. So I started making videos because I really like doing that. So that's one thing I do when I'm not designing. I mean, this is related to business itself, but it's something that I'm interested in, making videos, creating, posts, detailed posts about this industry.
Okay.
Yeah.
So basically, you like teaching others about your field
Yeah.
through
So,
videos.
yes. And our first duty when a client comes to us is by educating them, right? What
Yeah.
is what? And then they choose what they really want. So, why not make it accessible to more people and not just my clients? So, I like making videos on that.
I also feel like people who are interested in interior designing would benefit
Yes,
from it.
yes, they would.
Yeah. So, ma'am, where do you see House of Single going in the next few years?
Right now, I outsource every service that I need. So I want to have my own team, in-house team for everything that I do, all kinds of service that we provide. And I see House of Single as a brand. I want it to be recognized as a good interior designing brand in India, in the country. So that's where I see it.
Okay. So, ma'am, before we conclude, I would like to ask you one last question.
Yeah.
A lot of students are entrepreneurs in Christ itself. So they want to start their own business,
Yeah.
but they don't know how to start it or how to find investors and how to
Yeah.
go about it.
Yeah.
So what advice would you like to give them?
See, one thing that you can do is learn from somebody else. You either do a course, or you may join a company or a startup itself. Have a mentor basically who can teach you what they've already learned in the last few years. Because you wouldn't want to make the same mistakes that someone else has already done. It's better to just learn from their mistakes, work under them, learn their process. Because when you're starting a business, it takes a year or two for you to build the process. So, instead of you spending time 1 or 2 years building your own process, just learn from somebody else and follow their own footsteps. So that is one thing you can follow. Maybe just start off, if you're starting off on your own, know that you'll be learning from your own mistakes. So there are 2 ways to go about it. So decide what you really want to do and how to go about it. You have to plan everything, how it's going to work for you. Have financial planning, have plan it out in a certain way that, okay, if I have to take up a course for a year, I should be able to do that, and then I'm going to work under somebody and then start off as a business owner. And if you feel, you can just start off directly, you don't have to work under somebody else, it's up to you. So there are 2 ways to go about it. And one more thing is, like I said, you have to really, stay committed to what you're doing. You have to know everything beforehand. And yeah, these are really important. And yeah, another thing is knowing your intentions right before you getting into something. So when I started as an interior designer, I knew designing is what I love doing. My intentions are always like getting the designs right, and I go to the extent of fighting with my clients to make sure that the design it should come out well. No compromise with designs and the quality. But if your intention is, you're going into something for just money making, or if you're in it for, if you're solving a real time problem by selling a product or your service, you have to keep your intentions in mind. If you're in it for money, be in it for money, because certain times you'll have to take such decisions where if your intention like mine is to get the designs right, I may have to lose certain commission of mine in order to do that. But if you're in it for money, you'll go after the commission. You won't care about the outcome of the project. So you have to know your intentions right. Why are you getting into it? Because if I wanted to be in it for money making, I don't think I would be an interior designer today, because it started very slow. I would have done something else if my intention was to make money. Yeah. So know your intentions before you decide to do something. If you want to make money, if you want to give a service, you want to teach, what is it that you want to do?
So it basically comes down to knowing your intention on why you're doing this.
Yeah.
And then being honest to yourself about it.
Yeah, having a goal is important, but having your intentions right in place is just as important, because otherwise you may lose your way in between.
Yeah. So with that, we come to the end of the interview. Thank you so much, ma'am, for coming.
Thank you for having me. It was a pleasure talking to you.
I hope the viewers will find the interview very insightful. Thank you again for coming.